Hello, and welcome to another edition of It's Just Me, hosted by Brent Fox. This, of course, is going to be a very late night edition, so, you know, thank you for hanging in there. And then, first and foremost, I want to make sure that I actually apologize to you guys. I know that you were expecting a show on Saturday, like I said, and I did not hold my word, and shame on me for that, to be honest. Um, I cannot be out here trying to give my word or say something and then not be able to follow through. I don't care what the circumstances are. And believe me, it was an extenuating circumstance, uh, pretty much family business, but it was more of a jovial occasion than it was like, a somber one. So, you know, if you know, you know. The internet don't need to know everything. So I'm just going to keep that tongue in cheek, but I did have something very, very family oriented going on. So, and that's not to make an excuse. Again, I should have still found a pocket of time, regardless of work, regardless of other obligations and things of that nature. I still should have found like a little pocket to at least do a short or something. So, again, my apologies. Now, just to kind of recap last weekend, of course, there was the Lamont Roach Isak Pitbull Cruz fight. Shout outs to Cadillac Red and the usual suspect six for helping us being able to view the fight. So I'm very grateful for that. From what it actually looked like, of course, Pitbull Cruz did his thing, started off hot, and then I believe Lamont was able to actually figure him out. Now, he did stay in the pocket too long trying to slug it out with Cruz when he could have easily outboxed him and could have put on a very convincing performance and would have gotten an easy unanimous decision. But that dog in Lamont Roach just wouldn't allow him to do it. Now, that could be a very, very good thing. And then that could, in some cases, be detrimental. But shouts out to both fighters for putting on a great fight. And while we're talking about that card, the co-main with Shaki Foster and Stephen Coolboy Fulton, I'm sorry. Yeah, I when and to Stephen Fulton, he's a guy that I expect a lot out of, and for him to blatantly miss weight, and yes, it was blatant, that he actually missed the weight by 2 pounds. And while that may not seem a lot to like people that may not know how this sport actually works and how rehydration works and things of that nature, 2 pounds may not seem like a whole lot, but those 2 pounds that you just refuse to shed puts your opponent at a disadvantage who had to cut the entire weight just to make it. And that depletes the person that was actually trying to do the right thing more than it does the person that just figures, it's just 2 pounds. I'm gonna just wear it. So shouts out to Oshaki Foster for doing what he was supposed to do and then getting in a ring and then showing you know, why it's important to actually be a professional and do what you're supposed to do. So shouts out to Oshaki Foster for basically, for me, basically putting on a boxing clinic on Stephen Coolboy Fulton, and this should be actually a humiliating defeat for Fulton. The with the Inouye fight, I believe Fulton was actually a warrior. He went in there to fight, and unfortunately, he was just overwhelmed by a better fighter that night. But last Saturday night, it just he didn't even try, and it really showed. So shame on you, cool boy, for not even trying, bro. Like I'm still gonna support. I'm not one of them that's gonna hop on the next thing smoking or nothing like that. When things get difficult and support is hard to actually come by, then you know it's not in me to like quit on somebody because they've either made a very bad decision like this one or they're having a very hard time. Um, and again, this tracks back to another show that I did with Keyshawn Davis where he totally blew his opportunity to take himself over the top. He let a lot of people down, and I still, to this day, support Keyshawn Davis. Now, again, I had some choice words about what he did or what he didn't do. But again, I still support somebody like Keyshawn Davis, and he completely completely blew his opportunity. So, I should extend that same grace to Stephen Coolboy Fulton. So, hey, you gonna have to, you literally gonna have to get it together. You know that you've been a professional all this time. You cannot behave this way professionally and expect people to still get behind you, even though I still am. But again, you ain't got too many times to be doing that before I figure out that, you don't value what you're doing. And if you don't value what you're doing, I can't either. So there's that. But I'll get off my soapbox and move on to another fight. Now, Irislande Lara also put on put on a boxing exhibition, and I forgot the gentleman's name. Very convincing victory. I think he was at a. I'm not sure. I was kind of in and out of the card, but yeah, from what I could tell, I think he cruised to a unanimous decision. He could have knocked him out, but like I said, I was jumping in and out of the card at that particular moment. But shouts out to Irislande Lara for holding it down, and shame on Janabek for for failing a drug test. Man, come on! Like, you had an opportunity to unify belts at 160, and you could have potentially had a great fight set up with Terrence Crawford, but you messed that up, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. Um, Now, on to the performance of the night, which is none other than Frank the Ghost Martin. Frank the Ghost Martin may have scored knockout. Is a potential candidate for knockout of the year. I think Brian Norman's knockout, Nakasami in Japan, was still higher ranked than that one. But make no mistake about it. And when people put on these type of great performances, there are always folks with negative things to say, like, oh, his opponent was washed or whatever. And no, we're not gonna do that, because if it was the other way around, and if our boy Bartholomew actually turned around and won that fight, then Frank Martin would have been washed, or Tank out him shell shocked and all that other stuff. So when it's the other way around and Frank Martin puts on a great performance and then knocks the guy out. Now remember, before he knocked out Bartholomew, he knocked him down pretty good with almost the same punch. So Bartholomew was also a 2-division champion, and yeah, there are gonna be some naysayers that was like, oh man, it was 9 years ago, bro, and all of that other crap. But he was still a 2-division champion. Like, let's not take that away. So anyway, I think that that was a great performance at 140, and I think the best is actually yet to come for Frank Martin at that weight division. There are plenty of guys that he can actually fight in that weight division. Now that Shakur, I believe, has actually moved up to fight the infamous Teofimo racist ass Lopez. So him and his father, They're basically, I don't understand how you can be Honduran and be racist towards people that almost look like you. I never understood that. But, for Shakur's sake, I'll support Shakur, but I will not. Again, I refuse to flat out, uh, I refuse to flat out bring attention or support or do anything positive for somebody that just does not value me as a human being. And for more context on that, I have a show uh, on, of course, It's Just Me, and I put on there, it was 7 months ago, it's Teofimo Lopez, the new racist face of boxing. So y'all check that out for context, and you'll understand why I'm not supporting Teofimo Lopez at all. Now, I probably am not, unfortunately, going to do a 20 by 20 on that either. I don't want to shed light on that fight. I hope Shakur embarrasses the fuck out of that man. And I hope that he embarrasses him so bad that his father feels like he needs to jump in there and do something and he gets his ass knocked out again. Because I think that there was a sparring match that actually happened with, I think it was Keyshawn Davis, and Teofimo Sr. yelled out the N word and got his ass kicked. So I hope both of them continue to get their ass kicked. Financially, physically, all of the above. Yeah, it's no longer, oh, when someone hates you, you turn the other cheek and we shall overcome and we rise above. No. If it's me, then it's gotta be you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I'm not just some talking head on the internet. Like I always say, if I put these words out here on the internet, I gotta live up to those words. So, and I'm from that era. Like, you say something about somebody and it's controversial, or it's very insulting or something like that. People did house calls. In the era that I was from, people come to your house, knock on your door, you got to go outside. Ain't no staying in the house and all of that. As a matter of fact, if something like that happened while your parents was at home, your parents would make you go out there and face that situation. So there's that. And then again, we have people like Ellie Snakeback making derogatory comments about of course, black fighters. And then, in the words of Maya Angelou, if someone shows you who they really are, please believe them. Ellie Snakeback set off my alarm during the Earl Spence Mikey Garcia fight. Ellie was laughing and joking along with the Garcia camp, and was laughing about how they saw something in Earl and how they were gonna beat him and embarrass him and all that other good stuff. And he slithers his way into Derrick James' gym and starts trying to interview Derrick James, and then tries to interview Earl Spence. And to their credit, they were very gracious about having somebody like that in there, but they had to know that this man has no good intentions. And I'm doing him a service by calling him a man instead of what he really is. And like I said, if I say something on here, I have to be accountable for that in person. Now, I'm sure Ellie could probably say some slick stuff like, oh, well, I'm at these events and I never see you, and oh, don't use my name to build yours, and oh, your little channel needs all the help it can get. So, and I'm not doing it for clicks and views and likes. This is what I call a passion project. I do this because I love it. I don't do it because I need a certain amount of viewers or I need a certain amount of social status. I do this because I actually love talking about it. That's it. That's why I call it It's Just Me, because it makes me make sure that I stay rooted or grounded on why I'm doing this in the first place. I mean, shit, you keep your clicks and views and all that other. I done already cussed. You can keep your clicks and views and all of that. I don't care nothing about that at all. What I do care about or sports that I actually love, like football and boxing. I love talking passionately about my Pittsburgh Steelers. I love talking passionately about the art of boxing. What I do not like really spending my time and energy on are snakes that actually dirty up the sport and expose this hideous underbelly of boxing to where you can actually say some heinous things about somebody as a human being and then slither your way into their camp and then try to befriend them or seem friendly and then still snake them and all over the internet and then try to come back and do another interview like nothing ever happened. I was so glad that Terrence Crawford exposed Ellie Setback for who he actually was. I was so glad that Bill and Devin Haney were able to also piggyback off that and expose Ellie for the snake that he actually is. I don't do this for clicks and views, y'all. I do this because I love doing it. All right. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap it up on that note. I don't want to get too wound up or go on a larger tangent than what I've already been. Shouts out to my LDBC family. And speaking of such, please support my brothers, Coach 67 Sports TV, who is the best Southern University sports content creator on the face of this planet. Y'all check him out on YouTube and all other social media platforms. Y'all check out my brother Jared O11 Green, even though he's a Ravens fan. Um, and he has great shows though. The Southern Baller Show, which comes on Sundays at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard, and then also he's bringing back From a Black Man's Perspective, which usually comes on Saturdays, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard, also on YouTube. This has been another edition of It's Just Me, hosted by Brent Fox. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and until next time.